Backdoor! It's a Puzo to score. Captain, my captain, and she does it again. Great read by Marino. Charlotte North with a high heat. She strikes. Shot, she scores! Spectacular! Score! Goldmiller behind the back.
Their passion for this wonderful sport of lacrosse, and they get to do it with their best friends. I mean, what's better than that?
Welcome everyone to the Week 3 draft of Athletes Unlimited Pro Lacrosse. I'm Maria Tribal-Peace alongside sideline reporter for Athletes Unlimited, Kylie Ohlmiller. Kylie, 2 weeks down, just 2 more to go. So how pivotal does that make tonight's draft?
Halfway through the season, which is super exciting. We've seen a ton of movement on the leaderboard up and down. We've seen some different captains every week, especially this week, which I'm sure we'll get into with some new captains here for the first time ever. So I'm just excited to see what comes out of week 3.
Speaking of those new captains, we'll first touch on the old captains. Leading the gold team is Sam Puzo. She swept her competition as a captain last week, going 3-0. She has 905 leaderboard points. Right behind her, leading Team Orange is Taylor Marino. She's in second place with 809 leaderboard points. She had 30 saves in week 2. Right behind her is one of those new captains that you mentioned, Kylie, Allie Kennedy, leading the blue team. And then behind her, at the helm of Team Purple, is Charlotte North. So 2 first-time captains, and then we have 2 veteran captains. We're going to talk about it, all of that fun stuff as soon as we get started. But whenever we are ready, we can start the draft once they're ready to pick. We'll see when they pop up into the screen. But Kylie, I mean, first-time captains. Do you remember your first time as a captain?
I do. It's nerve-wracking. It's all the things. I know that, Allie and Charlotte have been doing their part to reach out to those who have been captains before for advice. So we'll see where they go with it.
I think Charlotte's muted.
Kenzie.
Charlotte, can you say that one more time?
One more time.
Attacker Kenzie Kent.
Those first time picking your teammates.
She did it though. We had a nice clear Kenzie Kent, and now second first time captain Allie Kennedy has her pick.
Midfielder Ali Mastriani.
Ooh, Ali Mastriani picking the midfielders early.
Mm-hmm.
Midfielder Katie O'Donnell.
Oh, that's one that I really like. She's been playing so well this season. Kylie, what do you think? We'll talk about it in a little bit, Sam.
These guys are ready.
Midfielder Dempsey Arsenal.
Ooh, so the midfielder is going in the first round. But okay, so the first couple were fast. Now we can chat a little bit. Of those first picks, Kylie, which ones stand out to you? Which ones did you like?
Charlotte North picking a lefty to work with on her offensive end, and one in a player that she's known for a long time, Kenzie Kent. I really like that one.
Midfielder Cassidy Weeks.
Ooh, Cassidy Weeks, a first-year player. That's the big story that we've been talking about all season long. Oh, they're quick today.
Midfielder Marie McCool.
They are quick today. And I think, Sam and Taylor being quick with this makes sense. They've been able to play with a lot of these players and giving themselves a little bit of some of this practice with the draft as well. They know who they want heading into the draft.
Attacker Sydney Black.
So we see an attacker taking off the board. And as you said, Kylie, this is week 3. Everybody knows how they're going to pick. Do you think, in your experience, does it get a little bit easier as the weeks go on because you've seen people play for 2 weeks now?
You've seen them play, and you've also seen how you can play with certain people too. You've been put on different teams with different captains, and you also can kind of get that feel for chemistry, which is big when it comes to these picking of these teams, right? Because tomorrow and Wednesday are the only days they're going to have to really practice together until they have to show up on Thursday night and figure out what kind of team they're going to be against the other teams that were drafted here. So far, what I really like, Team Puzo, she's going back to her BC roots with Dempsey and Cassidy Weeks.
Charlotte, whenever you're ready.
Midfielder Ellie Massera.
Oh, Massera going off the board. So you talked a little bit about those BC roots. If you want to dive into those a little bit more, Kylie, or if you want to break down Charlotte's pick, I'll let you have the floor on this one.
Yeah, there's been so many picks. They're going speed round here today, but All of these picks make sense to me in the first 2 rounds, but all 8 players have played fantastic so far in the first 2 weeks. And, Taylor Moreno picking 2 midfielders that are being absolute stars out there every time they can in Marie McCool and Katie O'Donnell. They're not only producing in terms of numbers and what they need to do as a midfielder, but they're also being great leaders. We saw Marie McCool as a first-time captain. Sorry if I'm swiping. My dog is trying to get into the screen here. But I like these picks for Allie Kennedy and Charlotte North too. 2 players that Charlotte North has picked in Ellie Massera and Kenzie Kent. You have a veteran and a rookie there. So she's got a little bit of a mix. And, I think she's kind of taken her time picking this next one to see where she wants to go in terms of maybe a position or how to also add into that midfield.
No, absolutely. You mentioned rookies and vets. Your dog that is kind of trying to get into the screen is a veteran of AU. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep, he is. He is a pro, and he is one of those that likes to climb up on the couch that's behind my desk right now.
Oh,
so
okay.
Currently trying to swipe down at the front of the laptop. If you see my screen go like this, everybody, it's Oakley's fault.
So now everybody knows. And speaking of everybody, let's head to the chat a little bit after Charlotte makes her pick.
Midfielder Amy Moreau.
Ooh, Amy Moreau. That's somebody that we talked about last week, Kylie, just having so much energy and grit and that spunk. Allie's going to pop in with her pick, and then we'll chat about Amy.
Attacker Sam Geiserback.
Sammy Geyer's back doing fantastic last week. I know that she's somebody that everybody was super excited about. What do you think's made her so good, especially in these last 2 weeks once Taylor picks?
Attacker Isabella Peterson.
Yeah, Sam Gyersbeck, Isabella Peterson, 2 lefties off the board right there in those back-to-back picks that you need on your offense to have. You need a staple offensive lefty to make sure that you have exactly what you need in terms of players that balance out a field and are really going hard to the cage and can finish on that left side. So you see Kenzie Kent, Sam Gyersbeck, and Isabella Peterson off the board. I'm interested to see who Sam goes with.
Midfielder Grace Griffin.
Ooh, Grace Griffin off the board. So another midfielder. We were talking about the chat a little bit before, so I want to open it up to the chat. Everybody who's watching, as Sam picks, who are you looking forward to seeing the most on the board so far?
Attacker Maggie Hall.
There you go. There's her lefties. Both of them. She's got Grace Griffin in the midfield, who is a lefty, and then she also has Maggie Hall, who's been playing fantastic as a rookie on that left side as well. Something to note, too, as you kind of see these first 3 rounds going through, we have some players that have usually gone in the first couple of rounds, Izzy Skane and Erin Kuykendall. They'll be inactive for a few games this upcoming weekend. So that's why we'll probably see them go a little bit later than they usually do just for this weekend in this draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Izzy Skane, especially going first in the last 2 drafts. So that's just something of note. So speaking of some of those players that people want to see, Sam picked Maggie Hall right when we opened it up to the chat. I see somebody saying Amy Moreau. So that's somebody that we wanted to go back to as well. Kylie, what has she been doing that's made her so successful, especially after the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, her and Ellie Massera in the same midfield is going to be really lethal. Amy Moreau is one of those just gritty midfielders. She can pick up ground balls anywhere. I like what she's doing with her one-on-one defense. She's really sturdy in her footwork, and she really can get to slides in the blink of an eye.
Defender Emily Knowles.
Emily Knowles, somebody who just missed being a captain. She was in that 5th spot on the leaderboard after those first 2 weeks. So, what have you seen from her that you've really liked?
Yeah, she really is just climbing that leaderboard. She's one of those players that is just chasing after cause turnovers. And she had her first goal this past weekend as well, just running the ball up the field. She's also been really present on the draw circle and picking up ground balls and creating a lot more offensive possessions for her team.
Defender Lizzie Colson.
Lizzie Colson, Kylie, somebody you've played with a ton. Not surprising that she's gone pretty early in this draft. So, you've gotten to see her play throughout the years. What do you think's made her good this year in particular, as opposed to, she's good every year, but as opposed to maybe years past?
Yeah, she is good every year. And this is a Team USA right here. Allie Kennedy, Allie Mastriani, Lizzie Colson from the 2022 World Championships. I was lucky enough to play with all of them. And yeah, Lizzie is just She's got really, really fast feet. She also has a fantastic stick when it comes to timing of her checks on defense. And she can also really handle herself when she has the ball running up the field in pressure.
Attacker, Livy Rosenzweig.
So Livy Rosenzweig getting off the board a little bit earlier this week than she did last week. I know that was somebody last week, and Charlotte's ready with her pick.
Defender, Sydney Scales.
All right, Kylie, break down those 2 picks for us.
Livy Rosenzweig moving up the leaderboard a ton this past weekend, and that's because of the way she can really just dominate at the draw circle right there. She was really, really dominant there. She was taking over when it came to playing against Sam Puzo, playing against Ali Mastriani, all of those big players that take at the draw. She was really, really an impact player there.
Midfielder, Cassidy Spillis.
Ooh, Cassidy Spillis. Kylie, weigh in on it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, really playing well. And I like that Sydney Scales pick from Charlotte North. I don't want to just hop over that too. One of the players that she probably just doesn't want to play against because she knows how well she plays. But yes, Sydney Scales as well. And Cassidy Spillis will really make an impact for Team Kennedy.
Attacker, Sammy Jo Tracy.
Sammy Jo Tracy. So more picks coming in much quicker this week, which these captains, as you said, they're ready to go. So we'll open it up to the chat again as these teams are formulating. Who are you all rooting for? I see a Team Kennedy in the chat already. So who's going to be your favorite team in week 3?
That's awesome. I like when everybody is kind of rooting for specific teams. It could be different reasonings behind it. Maybe those are family and friends, and maybe those are Stony Brook fans for Ali Kennedy. Maybe those are Ohio State fans for Ali Kennedy. She coaches there, which makes it all really, really fun. But at the same time, you know, it's really great to have all the support of all of the fans out there supporting everybody playing here at the highest level.
So we have the fans here in the chat and more are coming in. So we'll read some of those responses as these teams fill out. But I talked a little bit about this last week. You're at all of the games, right? You get to see the fans. You got to meet a young fan 2 weeks ago. This past week in week 2, what was the atmosphere like? And tell people who maybe haven't been to an Athletes Unlimited Pro Lacrosse game why they should be at week 3 or week 4.
Yeah, it's an electric atmosphere. It really is. They do a great job at making sure that all of our fans feel like they're a part of the game, bringing them into different fan zones and having them do dance competitions and all of the fun stuff. But lacrosse fans are the best fans in the world.
Defender, Katie Detweiler.
Katie Detweiler from Loyola, Maryland. You know, you're talking about the fans. We talked about the different schools showing up. Loyola showing up a couple weeks ago. You talked about maybe some Stony Brook or Ohio State fans coming for Ali Kennedy. It looks like in the chat we have some people that are excited about some of the matchups as well. So we'll keep looking. We're seeing where everybody's tuning in from. Where did we have someone from last week? Iceland, right? That was the.
Yeah, I think so. And that's the greatest part about lacrosse, right? It's a global sport, and we're trying to continue to grow it at the global level. So many of these players on this board right here, and the ones that haven't been picked yet either, are doing a great job at playing their part in spreading the game across the globe. So. Yeah, I love these last couple of picks too. I know we haven't gotten a chance to talk about them, but for Team Marino, Sammy Jo Tracy, she just had a monster game on Sunday, really taking over the offense. She's going to stick around in the orange jerseys. And then Katie Detweiler, she's one of those players that on the defensive end, you just don't want to be matched up against. I think I've said this in every draft, but just does a really good job at marking up the other team's best offensive player.
Defender, Abby Bosco.
Defender Abby Bosco. That's one captain in week 1. Another defender that you've talked a lot about, Kylie, and looks like Taylor's ready with her pick, so we'll talk about it after.
Defender, Kendall Halpern.
All right, whenever you're ready, Kylie, break down those last 2.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of defenders go off the board. And again, we're just going off of trends based off of where these captains are picking. We've seen it week to week, and that's just going off of strategy, making sure you take your defenders when others are taking theirs.
Defender, Courtney Taylor.
It's like I could hear you when you it was the Seawolf connection, right? She said that. She's like, I'm gonna set you up and we're gonna talk about defenders. So let's talk a little bit about Allie's pick of a defender in Courtney Taylor.
Yeah, Courtney Taylor, she's been locked down this season so far too. She is one of those players that even if she gives an offensive player a little bit of space, she has really good recovery speed. So even if the offensive player can get one step on her and kind of go by her, excuse my little kind of moves here that I'm trying to demo for you. But as an offensive player, you're trying to get a step around a defender. And what Courtney Taylor does really well is even if she allows you that step, she recovers really well. She has really fast feet and really knows what she's doing with her stick. Same thing with Kendall Halpern. She's done a great job at stepping right onto the scene. So for Team Marino, she's going to do a great job at fitting right in front of a goalie that's led some great defenses so far.
I feel like you also don't have to apologize for demonstrating because it's basically like free coaching for all of the lacrosse fans, right? You do all of your coaching, you played at the highest level. So I think everybody's very grateful for the demonstration on how to properly maneuver around, right? I would love to see, that being said, who we have left on the board because we have been moving pretty quickly. So I want to see who's left, and then maybe we can ask people in the chat who they're kind of hoping to see come off this list. Kylie, who are you surprised is still left?
Yeah, I think there's definitely, a lot of defenders left, even though we just took a bunch off the board. I feel like this happens every week where they kind of go into a trend where they're, again, following each other's picks and, okay, oh gosh, she's got 2 defenders on her team. I need to fill up my defensive roster on my team. Those kinds of things start to come into play. But again, you see those little in parentheses there by Izzy Skane and Erin Quinkadal. They will be inactive for a few of the games this upcoming weekend. So I think the captains are kind of just thinking about the ways they can implement them down the line.
Midfielder Hannah Dorney.
So a midfielder taken. We had some defenders go. Now we have a midfielder. Kylie, what do you like about Hannah Dorney?
Hannah Dorney's been solid in the midfield. She's one of those players that can kind of run the ball up and down the field. She really pushes transition well. And she's a great cutter on offense. She really understands the holes in the defense, and she can not only just kind of facilitate and make sure that she's dodging to create a lane for maybe the pass through X and for the ball to go down the backside. But she's also understanding where her defenders are, maybe not looking at her so often. And she always cuts to great spots. So if you're playing with a player like Charlotte North and a feeder like Kenzie Kent, that's a big pick.
So I think one thing you mentioned, Charlotte North, and we don't always get to talk too much about the captains, right? Because we're talking about the picks that they make, but both her and Allie, first-time captains in Athletes Unlimited. So I want to go back. You got cut off a little bit at the beginning. Thoughts of a first captain, and like, are you nervous? What's going through your head? And especially 2 players like Allie Kennedy and Charlotte North, who have had such an impact in this game. Now they get to be captains, and I'll have you answer that once Charlotte makes her pick.
Defender Meg Ball.
Yeah, I think, as a first-time captain, they definitely want to reach out to their network, right? Not everybody in Athletes Unlimited has had a chance to be a captain, so you ask the ones who have for their advice, and a lot of emotions go into it.
Attacker Andy Aldave.
Andy Aldave was somebody in the chat that people were excited to see. They were surprised she wasn't off the board yet. So Kylie, she's picked now. So what does she add to Team Kennedy?
Yeah, Andy's a great leader. She's a great communicator on offense as well. And again, I just was mentioning those players that understand the holes in the defense and when to cut and when to be able to maneuver off ball for opportunities. A lot of times on offense, you'll have ball dominant players, meaning players that like to have the ball in their stick and create some sort of move, draw a slide, and then move the ball. Andy Aldave is that player that's doing the work on the backside while someone else is doing that with the ball to find the open space, get herself to the right spot, or catch and move the ball to the right player for a quick assist or a quick goal. So she's just a really smart player. Megan Ball for the last pick as well. She's been really impactful on just kind of being really perceptive as a defender. She lunges out and creates a lot of caused turnovers on intercepting passes and just reading the attacker's eyes as they're kind of passing the ball around. She's got a couple of those caused turnovers, creating offense for her team.
Awesome. I'm looking down because I'm looking at everybody's messages in the chat. So we asked everybody where they're tuning in from because we did have Iceland. Right now we have some Connecticut, some New York, some Pennsylvania as well. So people are definitely tuning in. Kylie, where do you think some of the best lacrosse fans are from? And I know that might be a trick question, so I might be putting you on the spot there, but
Yeah,
maybe
that's a
the
fun
chat has some insight on that as well.
That's a fun question. And I'm sure everybody's got their own opinion, right? That they'll be the best fans. It's just like any other sport, like the NFL.
You have a nice comment.
Attacker
in the
Casey
chat.
Choma.
Casey Choma. Yes. Speaking of, I was just talking about the NFL, relating it to, speaking of a big football school, Casey Choma coming from Notre Dame and stepping on the scene immediately, making a great couple of plays in her first 2 weeks as a rookie.
Goalie Katie Glenn.
So we see the goalkeepers getting picked now. That's something that we've seen the trend of everybody waiting.
Attacker Madison Ahern.
Goalie and then an attacker. Kylie, let's hear it.
Like, I've done this too many weeks in a row. I've got my team. Let's just get it going. I love it. No, I think she played with Katie Glynn this past weekend, and Katie was lights out. She really was. She made some incredible saves, and she was just like really, really consistent in the goal. So to have that and get her off the board pretty early in this draft for when goalkeepers will go, that's a big move for Sam Apuzzo to have her kind of just really leading from the back end in the back crease. And then Madison Ahern, we saw her ability to feed on display this past weekend. She also can get to the cage. She had this crazy nifty catch and finish on the crease as she was almost falling down, but kind of holding on to it and still able to finish. Just really dynamic. So 2 great picks back to back for Sam Apuzzo.
And you mentioned just Sam Apuzzo's being in that captain chair for so many weeks in a row. We were talking about this before we even hopped on the Zoom call. As a captain, she is 23-7. So that's the most wins as a team captain in Athletes Unlimited history. So she's used to making picks, and clearly she's very good at picking teams as well.
Yeah, she's very good at picking teams. And, that's the coach in her. She coaches at Boston College where she played. And you could just tell she's a natural competitor. She wants to win. She's going to do everything in her possible power as a player to win. But that also means that she's going to draft a team together and understand that maybe things didn't go right one weekend as she planned. So how can I adjust heading into the next weekend as a captain? She plays hard enough that she has those opportunities week after week after week. We saw it after she kind of like worked her way back onto the leaderboard after she dropped down to like 35 on the leaderboard. So she's just so impressive in all facets.
Midfielder Megan Kinna.
Megan Kinna. Kylie, we say it every week. That was one person that you were very excited about. She had an exciting week too as well. So talk a little bit about Meg Kinna. She bumped up 9 spots on that leaderboard.
Yeah, she's a threat from the 2-point line, which I think is big. You want to make sure that you can have outside shooters on your offense because it opens up the middle.
Goalkeeper Britt Reed.
So there's another goalkeeper taken off the board. Britt Reed, such a veteran. What does she add to Team Kennedy?
She adds a lot. Like you said, not only is she a veteran, but she's a calming presence back there. She's very patient when it comes to her approach to saving the ball. She's also very patient and calm when it comes to her approach to kind of navigating through the obstacles that come with leading a defense in front of her. You're playing against some of the best offensive players in the world, right? So taking a hit and making sure that you understand, okay, they just scored on us, but how can we adjust to that? Britt Reed is one of the best in the world at that. And I know that Allie Kennedy and her like to play on the same side rather than Allie having to shoot against her.
I'm sure it's definitely not fun to shoot against her, but I'm going to go back to the chat really quickly because we have lots of comments in here. I will ask everyone, we were just talking about goalies and how they usually go later in the draft, especially when we have goalies as captains. Who would all of you like to have as a goalie on your team? And then which goalie would you not like to shoot against, as Kylie said? And then I know, Kylie, how about you? How about you answer those questions first? Which goalie are you taking, or who do you not
know? I guess it's a funny story. Last season, in kind of practice heading into weekend 1, I was shooting on Taylor Moreno. I'll continue after Charlotte goes.
Defender Kayla Wood.
That's a big pick for Charlotte. I like that pick to start leading her defense a little bit with Sydney Scales, Megan Ball. That's a tough defense to try to beat right there. I'm expecting her to go and pick a goalie next. That would be my guess. But yes, fun story about Taylor Moreno shooting on her last year before the games even started. And she, was complaining that, Kylie, I can't read your shot. I just can't read it. Everyone else I can read, but you just keep beating me. Of course, I go out weekend one when I'm playing against her. She stuffs me every single time. I was like, was she lying to me, or did she just adjust to my shot release? I don't know. I'll still never know. But yeah, Taylor Moreno is one of those ones that is really difficult to go against because you think you've got her beat, but she's just so patient.
I wish that she could hear us because I would love if she could chime in and say, you know what, Kylie, I was just messing with you. I could read it the whole time. Or she just is so good and, like you said, adjusted quickly and was
It
able
could be
to.
either. Honestly, knowing her, it could have been either.
There's a reason she's been a captain so many weeks in a row as well, and why she's won Athletes Unlimited the last 2 seasons. So it might have been the adjustments. She might have been able to adjust quickly. I don't think she would lie to you. I have hope, right?
Yes, we have hope.
Goalie, Kaylee Waters.
We're staying on the goalie trend. Kaylee Waters.
Yeah, that's well done there by Charlotte North. Again, like just kind of understanding the ebbs and flows of the draft and seeing that a couple goalies are coming off the board. You want to make sure you grab yours.
Defender, Meg Dowdy.
Ooh, Meg Dowdy, a vet. Looking at the chat, Ali Kennedy's Team Blue just picked. Lots of people are cheering for Team Blue this week, so I wonder if the addition of Meg Dowdy makes that even more fans.
Defender, Caroline Wakefield.
Caroline Wakefield, we talked a lot about those cerebral players, and I feel like she's certainly one of them.
Certainly one of them. And she's a player that likes to play alongside Taylor Moreno. We saw her for the first time in a while, actually, not playing in front of her captain, Taylor Moreno. This past weekend, she played for Team McCool. So to see them back on the same side, they really work well in terms of just kind of communicating after goals, maybe that get let in on their defense. How can they adjust? They have that similar UNC Tar Heel mindset. So seeing them back out on the same defensive side will be really good. And then Meg Dowdy for Team Kennedy, again, another Team USA right there, and just a really strong veteran that can really mark down on kind of anyone. You could have her on a lefty, you could have her on a righty, and you could have her on some of the strong Dodgers that you're seeing on the other offenses.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of seeing different things, I would love to just take a look and see who's left on the board because we're getting down to those final picks. Which ones stand out besides the players that are inactive, but which players stand out to you, Kylie, that are left on the board?
Yeah, I think Cookie Carr will probably go soon. For those of you who don't know, that's Kristen Carr. She's one of the defenders, the veteran defenders here, and I think she'll go soon.
Midfielder, Lindsay McCon.
If she would have picked your pick, Kylie, I would have been like, oh my goodness, they can hear us. But Sam goes with Lindsay McCone. So how does she add to Team Apuzzo?
Yeah, Lindsay's great on not only in the midfield, but also on the draw. She gives you another option as a draw taker. So that's really big when it comes to having multiple players that can take the draw on your team. Now, Sam can do that herself. But if she's feeling like she's not having the best day in that, maybe she can just focus on being on the offensive side of the ball and having someone like Lindsay McCone step in and take over the draw.
Defender, Kristen Carr.
She almost heard you. It was very close.
Does that count? I think we should just make the last week of the draft me just guessing who they're going to.
I think that'd be really fun. Kind of do a percentage of how many you get right. I think that would be really fun.
No, I think, Kristen Carr, Cookie Carr, she is, again, just one of those veteran players that knows how to lock down somebody on offense, but she also knows how to run a defense and run a team. She was really helpful for Team Reed this past weekend with just helping with the subs, right? Team Reed, Brittany Reed as the captain this past weekend was in the goal. She was focusing on her job in the goal. So to focus on the sub box and making sure that offensive middies and defensive middies were getting on and off, people were getting playing time, all that good stuff goes to your facilitator, but it also helps to have someone like Kristen Carr communicating through those things. And that's something that I saw firsthand standing on the sideline watching her do.
I think you bring up a good point of just like when you are standing on the sideline and you're looking at the game now from a little bit different perspective. So you've sat in the analyst chair. Now you're kind of in that sideline analyst role, right? So when you're looking at the game from that perspective, especially the last couple of weeks, what's one thing that's really stood out to you that you maybe didn't expect, or you feel like, wow, this is even more intense than I thought? And I'll let you answer that as soon as Taylor is done.
Midfielder Sierra Cockrell.
That's a good pick right there. Sierra Cockrell, she's been solid on the midfield and someone that can definitely add a few goals to the board when you need her to.
Midfielder Haley Warden.
Same with Haley Warden too. She's one of those players that you can just rely on. Again, not only in the midfield, but also in the draw circle. She's one that can take the draw and win some draws as well. And yeah, to your question before, I think it's giving me a new perspective as a player. I will say the weirdest part about it is that I can kind of cheat. I feel like I'm cheating because I can go from bench to bench and kind of listen into huddle here, listen into huddle here. And I'm like, okay, now I just know everybody's game plan. Let's, see how it goes. So that part feels a little bit foreign to me, obviously being on one team, most of the time. So that part feels strange, but I think those little things that, you might not see on TV, or those little things you might not even see in the stands, even though you're right behind the bench, and you might not even notice when you're on the other team in a specific huddle. So yeah, I think just those little things about who's helping to sub when there's no coaches, or, who's verbally picking up a rookie who might have just made her first mistake, those kinds of things you notice when you're down there. And I think you just appreciate a little bit more.
Speaking of just picking people up and like leadership, when you're sitting and listening to those huddles, who do you think stands out the most to you as those true leaders, those ones who are constantly helping the other players on their team?
Yeah, I think we just talked about Britt Reed. I think she does a really nice job of it. She's always trying to have conversations with people about not only how she can be better, but, how she can help others. And that's one that comes to mind first.
Defender Katrina Geiger.
Ooh, Katrina Geiger.
That's a good one right there too. Katrina Geiger, a veteran in the league, and can really just make sure that on defense things are going correctly. She coaches at Drexel as well. So many players on this board coach collegiately. So they're not only knowing the game, they have a lot of expertise on the game and the X's and O's, but they also have a lot of leadership experience as well. So another piece of walking to and from those huddles is you hear a lot of different thought processes going on from those different voices.
Attacker Erica Evans.
So
That's
Charlotte,
a good one there too. I like that one. Erica Evans is having a great season. She really is. She's kind of turned it on this second season of her professional career. And I'm excited to see her and Kenzie Kent play a little bit of the two-player game on the left side together.
certainly be exciting to watch. We're getting down to these last couple of picks. Allie's going to give us another one.
Attacker Kaylin Hart.
So we have an attacker going. We just had some defensive players go. Kylie, what do you like about Kaylin Hart?
Allie had to get one of her Seawolves off that's what I like about that. No, Kaylin Hart is going hard to the cage. She's a lefty out there as well on the offensive end. So her and Sam Gyersbeck, we might be able to see work together on that side. But yeah, she's been going really hard to the cage. And I think a couple of her finishes are going to come to her this upcoming weekend playing for Team Kennedy.
I love that. It kind of like what I was saying before. Allie jumped in with another quick pick, and I'll finish my thought after Taylor's pick.
Defender Maddie Burns.
Maddie Burns, that was somebody everybody was very excited about last week. We'll ask again if you're as excited about Maddie Burns this week as well. Kylie, what makes you excited about Maddie Burns in week 3?
Yeah, she's got a big fan base. I love that. She plays with fire. She definitely she's really speedy and she's really quick to get to your hands on the defensive side. So that adds that extra element on the defense. And I like that pick there. She brings some rookie energy to the squad.
Attacker Erin Kuykendall.
So we see Kuykendall get chosen again, lower on that leaderboard just because her and Izzy Skeen will be inactive for a few of the games this week. So Sam taking that chance though, and picking Kuykendall off the board.
Yes, Erin Kuykendall will only be inactive for Saturday. So we will see her on Thursday night. We will see her on Sunday. So at least you're kind of getting 2 of the 3 days from her for Sam Puzzo's squad. But we could see Sam Puzzo, Maggie Hall. We're going to see Erin Kuykendall and Madison Ahern out there together. So that's a really solid attack squad right there, who are very dynamic in the way that they play. They not only, all of them can not only dodge, they can also feed. They can play together off of each other. They all have really high IQ when they play. So I think that's going to be really fun to watch. We'll probably see some highlight reels.
When you mentioned that high IQ, and then we've talked a lot about chemistry, right? So how much do those two things combine and then help on the field of play?
Yeah, it's the perfect mixture. It's the perfect balance of things. Is the chemistry with your teammates and then the high IQ of, just understanding what's happening out there, especially, when you talk on the offensive side of the ball, the IQ piece comes from what am I trying to do with the ball other than just try to get to the cage? How can I draw a slide and see what's the next pass out of that? How can I, maybe come out of this 2-player game and see the second option? How can I, if I'm off ball, why am I just standing there? What am I supposed to be doing next to help the offense? Those kinds of things. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it's, how can I be in the right position to slide? How can I make sure I'm sliding correctly and safely and all of these different things? How can I make sure I'm approaching an offensive player in the correct way to maybe force them to their weak side? Things like that. It's a lot about thinking the game when you're an individual, when you're thinking about the best ways to perform as an individual. And then the chemistry aspect is just top notch.
Goalie, Emily Sterling.
So Sam takes a goalie off the board. We're getting into these last couple of picks. Taylor's ready.
Goalie, Kat Buchanan.
Another goalie taken. So as we've seen in weeks past, really moving in these last couple of picks, but they surprised us this week, Kylie, because they moved right from the beginning. We're getting more efficient as the weeks go on with the picks.
They were just ready to rock. They were like, we're coming out hot. Let's try to break a record here with how fast we can do this draft. Emily Sterling and Katie Glynn for Team Puzzo. Those are her 2 goalies. I'll be excited to see if we can see a little bit of both of them this weekend. Team Marino, she's got Kat Buchanan on her squad again. I believe this is the 3rd weekend in a row that the 2 of them are going to be there together on the same team. We saw a bit of Kat Buchanan this past weekend as Taylor stepped out for a little bit. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup this weekend. And I know Allie's ready to go.
Defender, Trinity McPherson.
So Trinity McPherson, I have to say everybody's doing very, very well, very good. What's the proper terminology? Very well with the name pronunciation this week. I know that was something we all had a couple stumbles last week, so everybody's really thought it through. I have to give everyone credit on that one.
That's a good note. Stumbles are okay. We're allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah, it happens, right? Especially with longer last names, right?
Especially these guys, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to the draft and, just understanding all the things that go into it. What position do I need to pick next? Do I have enough lefties and righties on my offense? Do I have enough goalies? Do I like the, chemistry of certain players that are still left on the board that will match up with my vibe? Things like that. Just you're thinking about it the whole time. You see a lot of them kind of looking down at their phones. They're probably in a group chat with the players that they've already picked prior, to these picks right now, and just understanding who do you want to play with on the offense, or who do you want to have on your midfield line? Who do you play well with? Who do you vibe well with? I think heading into week 3, it's all about the good vibes.
No, absolutely. And I feel like you've already had 2 weeks of vibes to go off of. And so kind of like what you said, what your vibes are and how they're going to mesh with other people's vibes. And I feel like, I've heard so many people talk about, and so many coaches talk about gut feelings. I feel like our generation, we talk about vibes, which is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Midfielder, Lauren Gilbert.
Lauren Gilbert, the speedster, getting taken up by Charlotte North. We're getting closer to rounding out this draft. So how do the vibes match up? We're talking about vibes. How do the vibes of Lauren Gilbert match up on Team North?
And talking about vibes, she's one of those veteran players, again, that you can kind of put into a spot and have her be really versatile in the way that she can dodge. And I think having Charlotte North on your team She really captures the attention of the opposing defense. We've seen it for week in and week out ever since her college career, that defense is planned specifically for Charlotte, whether that's an early double team or people turning around from the backside and kind of leaving you be so that they can go to Charlotte. So making sure that we have a player like Lauren Gilbert and the rest of that offense to take over when a lot of that special attention is going to Charlotte will be big.
And how does somebody like Lauren Gilbert like handle the pressure of that, right? So all the attention goes to Charlotte, so you need to step up and help your team.
Yeah, and I think, playing with stars like a Charlotte, it's really important to understand that, yes, she might be getting that special attention, but it also makes for a lot more openness on the backside for you to make sure that you're taking your opportunities.
Goalie, Paulina DeFada.
Paulina DeFada, taken for Team North. Thoughts, Kylie?
Yeah, so Team North will have Kaylee Waters and Paulina DeFada as their two goalies.
Is that the same? Goalie, Madison Doucette.
There's another goalie. We're rounding out the final picks.
Attacker, Izzy Skane.
So there we see Izzy Skane go. As we said, she'll be inactive for some of the games.
Defender, Marge Donovan.
And there we have it. Marge Donovan to Team Apuzzo. That's going to round out our week 3 draft. I can't believe we're this far into it. Kylie, any last thoughts before we close our draft?
No, I'm really excited. This is kind of the point of the season where, like we've mentioned, you can really tell who plays well together on certain lines, midfield, offense, defensively, all that good stuff. You start to see certain trends of where they're successful. So to see these teams match up against each other will be really exciting this weekend.
Absolutely. And that first game is on Thursday, August 1st, starting at 5 p.m. Team Kennedy and Team Marino on Bally Sports. 7:30 p.m. Team Apuzzo and Team North also on Bally Sports. Make sure you tune in. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight.